Welcome to the Working Women's Channel. My name is Clara Capano, and we're going to share the real secrets to success. Come on in. Welcome to today's episode of the Working Women Channel. I am so excited to have my really great friend, Allyn, here with me today, and we are going to talk about and dive into aspects of not letting your past define you, how to make sure that we keep going forward in everything that we're doing, and really just have a great time. So, Chris, I know you don't want to be here with me, but you're here, and I'm so happy you are.
I always want to be with you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It really is an honor. I'm just, the things that you do are amazing. And
well, thank you.
Every day I am in awe. So
well,
thank you. Being a part of it is really, really special.
Well, I couldn't have a show without you because you are my partner in crime most of the time. You are the guardian of my dog Lulu when I go out of town, and you definitely step in and help out whenever I need anything. So it's important that you're here with me as well.
Well, thank you. I know it goes both ways.
So we're going to dive on in. And you know that this show is all about the real side to success. And we know that getting to success, the path is not always smooth. So I would love to ask you, has there been a defining moment in your life where you sort of had to kind of wake up and maybe change directions a little bit on your path to success?
There have been many defining moments. I actually started out on the path to accounting. I was going to be an accountant. I was good at numbers. And as I found myself pursuing that, and in a great school with great potential future opportunities, I realized that I really loved what my friends in law school were doing, that I was much more interested in kind of the softer analytical side, although I will admit I do like it when those numbers add up.
You like those numbers adding up.
I do. And it just makes sense. But I also like the people side. And in fact, when I first went to law school, I intended to be a children's rights advocate. And I felt very, very strongly about that. It was a bit of a, the complete 180 in where I was headed, Pricewaterhouse, Deloitte, corporate accounting. But I really loved the idea of helping children who were in such an incredibly vulnerable position. But what I then discovered about myself is that I am a colossal wuss, and I couldn't do it. The people who actually do that kind of work, I realized about myself that I could be in a position where I could potentially lose someone's money. I would feel horrible about it, and I would do everything I could to avoid it. But losing someone's child or their freedom, because I considered, other areas of the law as well, being a defense, on the defense side, and I couldn't do it. I didn't even have kids yet, and it weighed so heavily. So I did find myself, because of my business background, all of the accounting, all of those numbers that you'd like to add up, even though they may not always add up, I was really pretty well suited and positioned to do corporate law. And that's where I found myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We go on those twists and turns, but we end up where we end up.
Right. And you are where you are, and that's a good thing because you are where you are. So you've got to make the best of whatever it is. And that's actually worked really well for me.
Good.
So, yeah.
So another question I want to ask you is about your past, because I know that you grew up in a very small town in Colorado, and you love your family very much, but I know it wasn't always as stable as the traditional model of a family. So I would love to have you kind of talk about how, growing up, how that impacted you and kind of got you on the path to where you are today.
It was probably the time, before I did finally kind of settle with my dad. in the small town. You're right, I grew up in a very small town on the Western Slope in Colorado. Generations of my family before me, but there was a time, my parents got divorced when I was 2, both wonderful, amazing, brilliant, fantastic people. At that time, it was just a given that the kids would go with their mom. And so I did. I was 2. And I don't remember, obviously, a whole lot before that. And I tend to remember the good stuff. It's just, that's what sticks in my brain. And I think it, makes me happy. So that's where I go. I definitely had some adventures with my mom. There was a pretty long period. I was the youngest of 3. And at that point, from the time I was probably maybe 5 to 11, it was pretty much just me and my mom. And she was a bit of a gypsy. We've talked about this. Just a very freedom-oriented, again, loved me more than anything in the world, my brother and my sister, but was probably one of the most irresponsible people.
She didn't care so much if the numbers added up.
The numbers, what numbers? So, yeah. Although she was good with numbers. Brilliant, right? But so we lived in a travel trailer, much smaller than the size of this room, for a couple of years with our dog, Sandy. This is an example. At one point, and that travel trailer, I believe, belonged to my grandparents. And we had backup plans for a long time because my grandparents on both sides were wonderful, very stable, very loving, always there for us. So I don't know that I necessarily felt like the world was going to come to an end. And it was what I knew, right? We had no money. We were getting kicked out of apartments, and my sister, helped raise me while she was there when I was much younger. That was a significant pull on her as well. But I remember my childhood being very, very positive. I was a welfare kid, right? I was one of those kids, and I've actually had this conversation with my children. We were in one of those stores, and they had one of those beautiful Christmas trees, right, with the children's names on them. And we were talking about, let's do the adopt a child thing. And it was the first time I think I explained to my kids that I was that kid. I was Susie on the Christmas tree, or Chris on the whatever it was. And that because of the kindness of people I would never meet, I had a Christmas, but it was a much different Christmas than what my kids know. And when I was in 4th grade, Mrs. Herda, one of my amazing teachers, and I will tell you that my teachers have made an incredible difference in my life. And we just cannot say enough about the really good teachers out there. Mrs. Herda decided that I needed to be tested because I was good with numbers and other things, right? And so they came in and they did this test, and I just remember it was called PEGS. I think it was like Personalized Education for Gifted Students. I had no idea what it was. But someone decided I was smart, right? Someone labeled me gifted. And I believed it. And I have no idea how I did on that test, right? I remember certain things about it, and I remember that I, in a twisted way, enjoyed it, and it was good. But that might have been because I got the pat on the back, right? And that I was told that I had what it took to be successful, whatever that was, and I ran with it. That was, I'm like, okay, apparently I have some gifts, and I'm going to ensure that my kids have every opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And it's interesting how, just these items of being labeled smart. It could have been the opposite. It could have been anything. But how that you took that in as your identity, and that became sort of a compass for you and a driving force to keep you going because you knew you were smart because you were given that label. That was your definition of who you were.
And the sad truth is that not everyone gets labeled in that way, right? And so there is another side of that. And you want to believe, right, that you're going to make the best. And my sister calls me Pollyanna, right? You've probably heard her call me Pollyanna, because I do want to believe the best. I want to take, the benefit where I can from whatever is going on. Because it could have, my story could have ended much differently, right? No one could, I say that no one could make that self-image but me, and yet, a significant part of who I am, I thank Mrs. Herida, right? And my parents and the people, you get support where you find it.
Right. That's a great message. You get support where you find it. Yeah. So I want to talk about your kids for a little bit. Because you're an amazing mom, and you've just talked about how important it was for you to make sure that your kids didn't want for anything and that they had all the items around them to help them be successful for whatever that means for them. But you have a son who's almost 17 and a daughter who's 14. When you think about the role model you want to become, because you mentioned your teacher, your parents, and how they were role models for you, especially with your daughter, knowing that this is a TV show about speaking to women in business. What would you hope that are some of the messages that your kids take away from watching you?
Be true to yourself. Don't let others' opinions, good, bad, or indifferent, again, find the best that there is out there. Especially now, I think it is incredibly challenging for kids, young girls, young women with social media. I just cringe at the thought of that being such a huge part of our lives when we were teenagers. It's difficult enough, right? I mean, there's so many challenges in an absolutely perfect environment. Like, life is tricky. It is tricky, challenges everywhere you turn. And if you want, you could focus on nothing but the negative side. But there's no fun in that, right? Life is supposed to be good if we can just get out of our own way. And I think having a teenage daughter, and she's finding her way, but it's, it's been a journey, and it is not over. And there is no actual destination. So you got to do your best to just, wherever you are, find the good in it. And that's what I want for my children and for your amazing son.
Very nice. So I want to turn it to more of a business tone now. You do work for the #1 aerospace firm globally. I mean, Boeing is huge. Also extremely demanding. I don't even know how to even word this for you, because making it all work is such a big thing. But when you have a job that is not a 40-hour-a-week job, it is really demanding. You are a single mom with 2 teenagers. Talk to me about how you show up, and how do you serve at that high of a level, with a company that is so demanding, also knowing that your family is demanding too.
Wow. I would love to say I have the answer to that question. You have heard me say this probably a million times, but I just hope for the best. I do my best, and I have to give myself some grace, because you're right. I'm a full-time single mom. I have my kids 100% of the time. They are everything in the world to me, but I also love my job. And it's important to me to be there for my clients. I believe in this company, right? I believe in what we do. I really care about these people, and what we do is really important, and I want to do the best I can. But I also question myself all the time, right? Like, who am I to be in this position? This is insane. What am I doing? And then I turn around, I'm like, who am I to raise these kids, right? Like,
Who gave me these
I
kids?
didn't pass any test for that. Like, law school didn't prepare me for this. And so my sister is an astrologer, as you know, and she's also brilliant, right? And she tells me that something about my Neptune, I don't even know what it is, but when she says it, it makes perfect sense. And it's this idea that on some level, I'm on autopilot. Like, you know this, right? I go from thing to thing to thing to thing. I think you were probably very concerned that I was not going to make it here, but you also probably knew in your heart that I would absolutely be here, just not early, because I'm always trying to get in one more thing, right? There's just something else that needs to be done. The one, and I know this is true for you too, the one area that I think we all need to work on, my friends who are educators, who are lawyers, who are, entrepreneurs, who are brilliant coaches and speakers, we expect a lot of ourselves. And we tend, the first thing that goes is us, right? Like, we are the last on the list. And I'm bad about that. You know that. In fact, you are one of my biggest cheerleaders in trying to get me to spend a little more time being nice to myself and taking the time to do that. And that is probably my my area of opportunity is that.
I like how you phrase that.
Thanks. Yeah.
When we're looking back on everything, because again, you've gone through many different areas, what would you say you're most proud of?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I am so grateful for everything I have in my life. I guess doing my best to maintain, be as true to myself as I can in the world that I operate in. I believe that there are many opportunities, particularly as a woman in a male-dominated profession, in a male-dominated industry. It is very, sometimes, and not so much now, and I will say that I think Boeing is fabulous about really respecting true diversity of thought, of approach, of personality, of background. And that hasn't always been the case. I have been in situations where, you know me, right? I'm not a screamer. I'm not going to pound my fist on a table unless, of course, it involves my children. But sometimes you just, children are different and they usually have headphones on. But that's just not my way, right? And I feel very strongly that you can be just as effective and still be a decent person. And that is really important to me. And making sure that I stay true to that hasn't always been as easy as I would have liked. And so I guess I'm proud of that.
You should be.
Thanks.
There's lots you should be proud of.
Well,
we'll talk about that over wine later.
Right.
So,
Indeed.
yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
cheese. I hope I'm hungry.
So I know you love your job. I know you love your family. I know you love life in general. And I also know that your journey and story isn't near from being complete. So what's next for Chris?
I don't want to foreclose any possibility, right? I am very blessed and very lucky to be in a position where I don't need to go anywhere, right? I do enjoy my job. It is incredibly challenging. There are never a lack of chances to learn more. This is, I was not in aerospace before I joined Boeing. I was in technology, and so there's always more to learn. So I could stay. That would be great. You know, I love to write, and there's a book that I would love to actually take steps to make a reality, more than just scribbled notes and chapters on my phone. But I don't know. I just want to be happy. I want to feel like I am secure in where I am, in who I am. I'd love to spend more time with my friends.
We would like that too.
Yeah, that would be great.
Wonderful. So, Chris, I just want to say thank you so much. Again, not just for being here today, but for always being in my corner. There have just been days that have been really hard for me, and you've been a rock for me. And on those days where I know it was hard, because you were having hard days too. So you have my heart, you have my friendship, you have my support for everything you need. And I know that whatever you do is going to be amazing. And you are leaving a true legacy and a beautiful example of a role model for all the people that are around you. So Chris, as our viewers are watching this, there could be some people that want to reach out and connect with you. It could be on a professional level. It could be to just hear a little bit more about your story. So where can our viewers best connect with you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. Christina Allyn, Allyn, Boeing, is probably the best way to find me.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you for watching today's episode of the Working Women channel. I am hoping that you walked away with as many ideas and value pieces that I did. We talked a lot about, knowing that it's part of the journey and to trust the journey. We talked about, knowing that your past doesn't always define where your future is going to be, and the importance of just being happy. So thank you so much for watching. You can rewatch this episode. You can catch all episodes of the Working Women channel, and you can get all your clarity on my website, www.claracapano.com.